and with me here is Britta Dubbel. And we have got such a good show coming up for you guys. We've been receiving questions coming in, so we're going to be addressing some of those as we go along. And over the course of the next hour, we're going to also be talking about emotions, going through questions. So this is just going to be real good. And let me tell you, if you're listening to us over the website and not the Google live stream right this minute, and you have questions as we are going along, if you go over to the tab that says questions or contact us, one of the two. Geez, now my mind has just gone blank being true blonde here this morning, so one of those you'll find. And when you click on it, it gets to a submission page. And just type your question in. Both Britta and I are going to be looking at them and going through the questions that are coming in. So, if you have anything that comes up or comments, feel free to include them. And, who knows, maybe we'll be able to get a chance to get through them while we're here today. So this, just a lot of fun. And, if you are like me, you love the subject of emotions because, face it, we have them pretty much all the time. And I find even when we're sleeping and dreaming, there's something coming up. And, you don't always have the best responses, if you will, or sometimes you're questioning what's going on or, how to handle things. And, geez, it gets to be a lot. And all of us can use some guidance getting through it. So that's part of what we're going to be talking about here today. So, Britta, why don't you jump on in?
Yes, I would love to. Hello, everybody. So, just before this, before here today at 12 noon, I had a client that hit the spot. And it was so much about emotion. So this is where I would like to start. So I was working with my client, and she is pretty far along on her consciousness evolution journey. And she was remembering how when she was 10 years old, she was in this place of full awareness of her interconnectedness with everything. She described it as she was standing in the middle of a snowstorm and all the snowflakes were coming down, and as she was just being, witnessing these snowflakes, she felt the deepest level of bliss, of peace, of joy, of belonging, of oneness. So she just remembered that today and had a reconnection with that. And so she said to me, I know that that's the goal and that is what I will be feeling more and more and more. Normal state. And I said to her, yes, exactly, because that is our essence. So this memory of what she was connecting into, that is the truth of who we are. That is the truth of our emotional state. So that's ultimately my intention for all of us, for this entire planet. And Sue's as well.
As you're describing that, you can't help but smile. And I was remembering some similar types of times from my own childhood that were coming up that, not necessarily the snowfall, although, the first one of a winter sometimes can be absolutely magical. But yes, how wonderful would it be for each of us to be able to get to that state and have that as our default that we go back to when times are trying or things are going on around us that, we would really like to change. And, we all get into the sadness parties and, wow, what a great default to reprogram for ourselves.
Yes, yes. And so then we continued on because she is not in that place of this bliss, of this deep peace, of this deep connection with oneness and all that is all the time, right? And so now, here's where I want to bring it back to the human experience, the physical manifestation of your energy into this earth realm at this time, right? So here we have the two contrasts, right? We have the essence, the bliss, the oneness, the peace. And then we have the human programming with all of the pain and all of the suffering and all of the judgment and all of the guilt and all of the shame and all of the fear that has been imprinted on us, because that's really what it is. You know, if you imagine yourself as a child we were all so much more open and so much more connected and so much more fresh and in tune. And then life happens, parents happen, caretakers happen, teachers happen, friends happen, right? And so if you imagine it in that way, imagine that all of these unconscious humans around you are imprinting mentally, imprinting emotionally, suffering on top of that essence. Make sense?
It does, yes.
And so this imprinting that is deeply, deeply emotional needs to be cleared. That's really what healing means. Healing is not waving a magic wand or having instantaneous miracle happen. That can happen, yes, but if you are serious about yourself and your healing, that means it's a process of undoing the imprinting that has happened to you and that has happened to everybody. Everybody.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I just want to add before we go too far is, and it doesn't mean that you were subjected to horrendous abuses or that you've had a lot of things that society would deem as big and bad happening to you to have this imprinting. It can be something very small for you, or small comparative to what other people have gone through, that's left the imprint on you. It could also be that you're very empathetic. Empathic. Okay, tongue's going to start working eventually here. And that you're picking up on things that others have gone through. So I don't want you to feel that, this isn't for you because you didn't suffer through X, Y, or Z. It's really for everybody, because it's not, there's no judgment on how big or how bad. It's just that it is, and you have had this happen for you.
Yes, yes. And like we already said last time, it's all relative. It's all relative. All suffering, all pain, it's all relative.
Yes.
So coming back to my client example from earlier on, so what we were focusing on today was her challenge with trusting in her intuition. So we followed that all the way down into childhood, as she was raised by a mother that was a serious religious churchgoer. And so because of this church experience that taught my client that she is not a direct vessel, She has to go through a priest. She has to go through a pastor. She has to go through somebody who's attached with the religion in order to receive any kind of assistance, any kind of guidance, any kind of input, right? So this is where a very, very, very big block, because it was contrast to what she wanted to believe now. Now she wants to believe that, yes, I have my own intuition and my own relationship with my source. But because this old imprint was still there, it was making her feel incapable. It was making her feel doubtful. It was making her feel mistrusting. So now, as it relates to the emotions, and this is very, very, very important, when you are not feeling the way you want to feel, right? In that bliss, in that peaceful, in that strength, however it translates to you, then there is necessary awareness for you to focus inward in that moment. Because there is always interference that will trigger the old imprint. But as we are growing and as we are healing, more and more and more of the imprinting is coming to the surface. And when it does, you will feel it. You will feel it so strongly because it will feel yucky and you're just out of sorts with yourself, or, you know, however you want to describe it, but you will feel it. Because we're emotion-driven creatures. And we always either look to get away from the pain or seek out pleasure. That's the fight-flight part of the programming. But, so here's the key. The importance is not to collapse into the fight-flight, but to connect into what you're feeling, because only through you relaxing into it and going into it will you actually heal that old imprint that is ready to be cleared.
Yes. And I want to point out a difference with what you're saying, because I know for myself and a lot of people that I talk with, there's a tendency when you first start, or even when you've been doing it for a long time, there's a tendency to get a little bit confused between going into the feeling and walking through it and kind of observing it versus wallowing in it. And, you know, it's a subtle distinction. And I know I've had a lot of trouble, and like I said, a lot of people I've talked with, they're like, okay, but, you know, right now, you know, X happened, and I'm feeling really depressed and really sad. And so when I look at this, I just keep getting further and further and further into why I'm sad and what else is making me sad. And, you know, pretty soon you've gone from having your core issue that particular time to having 100 different things that are coming up for you. And, you know, you just keep getting into all of it. And that's where a really key part of this is to really try to focus and not let your mind go into every single time you've experienced a similar feeling since the time before you can remember. And, you know, stop those other stories. Keep yourself focused on this one particular piece. But don't go into why this piece is making you feel this way. And this sounds kind of funky if you haven't done it before. So if you haven't, really just try to. Try it just once or twice. It becomes much easier, and if you've done it several times, you know what I'm talking about, and this is just great reinforcement for you. To take, you know, say that you're hurt, you know, somebody significant in your life made a comment, that's caused you to feel upset and pain or depression or, you know, wherever that goes for you. And observe that feeling as if, you know, like you're sitting on your shoulder, and try to give that particular emotion either a color or a visual or words, whatever it is that relates for you, how you best can see or feel it, or, you know, even taste it. You know, things come to us in so many different ways, and it's not the same exactly for any two, so there's no right or wrong way. The most important piece is to observe what it is, and somehow, for me, it always helps to give it something tangible, so that, you know, if somebody has made me absolutely venomously angry, I can picture a wonderful big black cloud, and I just kind of watch it and look at it and take the story away from the feeling. And after a little while, I can watch it just completely dissipate. And that's, you know, whether it's dissipating, however you see it, again, is, you know, the key, but it's watching it without a story and then watching it somehow go away or transmute whatever, you know, it is, again, that works for you. But that's one of the key pieces for this that's going to take you out of it and be able to get more to the point easily that Britta has been, you know, talking about.
Yes, yes, yes. You know, I was just like marinating in what you were saying because it felt so good. You know, to bring it even more into the conscious mind, you know, like you said, with colors or imagine it in some way. You know, I think that's such a great tool to use. So I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Yes, yes, yes. Because in essence, you know, it's like finding the tools that work for you, right? Because everybody is gonna have different tools that work for us, right? Because we're all so individual, we're all so unique. And just because something worked for you 5 years ago doesn't mean it'll still work for you today, right? So to stay creative with it, right?
Well, and that kind of goes back to what you were saying, you know, about your client, about not knowing how to trust her intuition. And I think that that point, along with what you just said, if it worked 5 years ago, it might not work again today. But that can even be so much as, you know, 5 seconds ago, it worked beautiful, but it's not now. And you've got to trust your voices, or, you know, where your guidance is coming from at all times, because just because one thing isn't bringing you immediate, intense results, it's not a sign to give up. It's a sign to, listen a little bit more to your intuition and try something different. And, you know, that's a big stopping part. You know, for me especially, I know I talk a lot about my own experience because a lot of this was really new. And when it was, I had to really, you know, stop and think. And that's part of your problem, is you think too much, and you've got to get away from that and just get into your knowing, which can be difficult. So little tricks you can do always help a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that. I love that because of quick fix, right?
You froze for a second.
Yes, yes, we
so
did.
if you could just repeat what you just said, because it kind of went robot and then it froze and then you kind of came back in, so I think we lost a little bit.
Okay, yes. So what I said was, yes, especially with the culture that we're living in this quick fix, you know, culture of, you know, immediate result, immediate. And so, like you said, to if you know, it's not really having an effect immediately, to stay with it and to stay patient, you know, and how I said last time, remember, breathe, feel, don't think.
Mm-hmm.
By saying don't think, I mean, don't, like Sue had already mentioned, don't go into the attaching meaning or the attaching of blame and judgment as to why you're feeling this way right now because of what happened on the outside.
Exactly.
Right? Think if you are able to focus on, okay, how can I visualize this for myself? How can I find a tool right now that will help me to relax more into what I'm feeling? Because I think that, to me, this is really one of the key ingredients to remember about emotions. We are all needing to relax with our emotions, and we're all needing to learn to accept and embrace them all. So much more, because these emotions, when they happen, that's your, okay, ready, get set, pay attention. That's when the rubber meets the road, and that's when you use these emotions because they're there, because they're ready to be healed. This is the imprinting that is ready to be released. So to welcome discomfort is your greatest strength. Your greatest strength.
You know what? I'm kind of chuckling because I could just hear people going, seriously. And, you know, and I do the same thing. So it's not. And I think we, you know, got into this a little bit last week also, that, you know, when you're starting to learn, or when you're really ready, and I guess that's where I'm going to put this, is when you're ready to start working on this. I know that I was like, okay, something happened, I really want to put these tools into play. And one of the things that I realized after I was, you know, begging for, you know, something tragic to happen, was that I could use this with happy, wonderful emotions also. And it wasn't that I wanted to deflate them or, you know, transmute them into something different, but still by observing it and not attaching the stories with it again, and really kind of, you know, focusing in on how a wonderful feeling made me feel. And I'm talking about, you know, like head to toe, all of just the energy behind it. It actually gives you something to draw on and remember also, so that it's easier to connect with that when the times are not so great and you need a pick-me-up. It's a great way to be able just to help yourself, and you can do it anywhere, in any place or time, basically in any situation. You know, if you can even take 5 or 10 seconds just to go back to that feeling, you've got an instant pick-me-up. And once you start using that, it's easier and easier for that feeling to just be right there anytime you need it, and last for any duration that you ask it to be there.
Yes, 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 yes. I love that, Sue. Love that. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think it's a very appropriate transition. You know, that it doesn't only have to feel negative, it can also feel very positive, you know, and that actually takes me into looking emotions from yet another perspective. Because in essence, emotions really are chemicals that our brain releases. And so we all have a certain range within we are comfortable, right? We also call it the comfort zone.
Yes.
And so, so within this range that we all are in, you know, I also know people and you know, clients I've worked with that, for example, you know, when it gets too good and too light and too happy, that's out of their comfort zone. So, you know, I think that's great that you brought that up, Sue, to actually flavor it and cherish it, and try to hang out in that for a little bit and kind of like mark that for the self, is such a great tool, because it's so easy to want to escape all of that which we don't know. Right? Anything that's unknown or uncomfortable because it's not within our comfort zone is a stretch.
Yes.
And so to recognize yourself, because this is all about yourself. This is about learning your comfort zone. This is about observing.
Uh-oh, you hold on. You're frozen again. Oh,
And where you're stronger.
hold on a second, Britta. You just froze and went robotic again for a second. So the piece that you just said we didn't get at all.
So at the end, I said that for us to learn ourselves and observe ourselves, right, and know where our comfort zone is and know what the stretch is for ourselves. Whether it's discomfort in the positive sense because we're not used to it, because we don't know what love really feels, because we don't really know what it actually is supposed to feel like when we are entering into another level of connection, right? Mm-hmm. Or it could be the other way, that we're, judging and uncomfortable with discomfort, uncomfortable emotions, right? So to learn yourself is a huge part of your journey, of your evolution, and of your healing.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. That is absolutely, oh, that is so true. And, one of the things that I know a lot of people get into, especially, when we're talking about negative emotions, is it seems like one part of your brain really wants to hamster wheel you and just keep going over and over the same thing and keeping you really stuck in a place that doesn't really feel good. But for a lot of us, it's comfortable because it's what we know. So to have that happiness, or, if you can't do happiness, then at least, joyful, whatever words you can put to it, especially, again, when, it's something that's newer to you that you may not know what it is. A lot of people on this planet do not know what true happiness is. They don't know what true joy is. And that can feel more uncomfortable than a sad anger, depression, anxiety, anything that, makes you cringe and your muscles tighten. That can be so much more comfortable for you because you don't know the other side and you've never accepted it in. So everything that, Britta and I are talking about is really geared today to helping you allow happiness, joy, glee, giggly, insane moments to be your new comfort and your fallback. And, that's a lot nicer place to be, but scary as heck. I could see you have something to add there.
Well, my guidance was already like going into the next level. Mm-hmm. And so what just came in was that, okay, so now let's also pay attention to that when emotions happen, and I also want to get into the different aspects of emotions.
Yes.
But whatever is triggering the emotion within you, good or bad, on the outside, right? Mm-hmm. That is really the outside. It's actually the universe. It's actually a co-creation that is happening for you to trigger whatever is a part of your growth and your expansion. And so for all of the emotion to be really understood as your own, even though it is being triggered by the outside, the emotion that gets triggered within you is not about the outside at all. It's the imprinting that is being stirred up, that happened early on in life. And so it is your responsibility to not dump or vent or project this emotion outwardly, but to really own it as your own and to really honor it as your own, knowing that this is your opportunity to breathe with it and relax with it so it can heal and release. Because if you don't relax with it and let it release, you reprogram it deeper. And so you're caught up in this vicious cycle of being dependent on the outside world for your emotional state.
Yes. Absolutely. That is such a great point.
I have a little add-on. So, you know, it's important to own this for yourself, because if you don't, you are not getting any closer to feeling happier, stronger, more peaceful more often of the time. Right? Remember, the imprinting is covering up that which you already are. And so the more you're relaxing with and owning your emotion, the more you clear and make room for feeling the way you really want to feel more often.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I'm just kind of sitting here, you know, feeling into what you're saying, going, yes. You know, to be able to own it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's really the big word, is owning it. That puts a different spin on it, and it takes you out of the victim mode that anyone other than yourself is responsible for every aspect of your emotions. And that is something that so many of us absolutely love to forget, because it's so much easier to go into so-and-so did this, and therefore I am going to feel like this, and I am justified, and that's all it is. And, you know, so what you're saying, you know, kind of gets rid of all of that and brings us back to our own power, which, you know, that's one of our other goals, is you've got to be empowered and keep empowering yourself out of this stuff. So thank you for that, Britta.
Oh, of course, my pleasure. Thank you. And yeah, so as time is moving along, and of course emotions are a big aspect, and I'm feeling that we need to continue with that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, progressively, because there's stored emotion, there's immediate emotion, there's intuition, sensory, and feeling, which can all in the beginning be a little muddled and confusing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so, you know, I really feel that there is more for us to dive into and dissect. But how do you feel about just answering a couple of the questions we also had, Sue?
I think that's great. We've got, what, about 20 minutes left,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a few questions come in, so I think that leaving off here and knowing where we're going to kind of pick up again next week, and then absolutely getting into what, you know, you guys have been writing into us, I think is absolutely wonderful. And I think one of the questions asked us to go back to some basics.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think that a lot of people could be feeling that way because, you know, right now we're not really sure, you know, where everybody is, you know, along on this journey. So if we just take it right back, we've got a great starting point and a reference for everyone. And, you know, 3 or 4 weeks later, nobody can, you know, or if you've been, you know, listening to us all along, it's like, it's more second nature. So I think that that's a great place to go to right now.
Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. Do you want to kick it off?
I'll let you.
Okay.
As my screen is flipping back and forth all on its own here.
So the basics, if you think of your mental programming, because the mental programming is really where all of that imprinting is defining who you identify and what you identify with. So, for example, you are born into Germany, into a German family, and they are Christian, and there are certain dynamics going on within the household, within the relationship of the parents, within the whole, you know, interconnectedness and dynamics of the entire family. So if you kind of like imagine yourself being born into this example, or think of your own example, right? So now all of this imprinting is happening, and you are a sponge, and you are just learning, because you're coming from this vastness of pure oneness and love and light. And so here you are now learning human imprinting. And so that is now going to become your identity. But truthfully, it's your false identity, because it's not who you are. It's just your personal imprint story. And so from here, I'm going to back up again into, okay, so how do we know the truth of source, the truth of oneness, the truth of love and light, right? How do we know? And so that is really a concept that is in great conflict with the mind, because the logical mind, the critical mind, the way we have been trained to think, doesn't really allow the concept of oneness, doesn't really allow the concept of you are love and light, you are extension of source, you are powerful beyond measure, you are already and always have been this infinite light, right? So here is that conflict. And so how do you access that which is completely my truth and completely Sue's truth? How do you access that belief, that trust, and that is the truth? You can only access it and feel it and get comfortable with it and get to know it by being. And this can only be accomplished by not thinking. So it's a practice of meditation, clearing your mind, doing the best you can to get out of that head, because that head is never going to let you access it.
No, not for a moment. And if it does, it's going to tell you that it's something very different than what it actually is. Because there is a battle, if you will, that goes on between your ego mind that wants to be in control, or your logical mind that has to put the pieces into the puzzle in exactly the right shapes. And that's the piece that most of us are used to listening to. You know, it's the one where you're driving down the road and you see a red light that says, okay, it's time to stop now. And you're just so used to hearing that you take that as, oh, that's my truth. And that's where a disconnect has to come in that can be really uncomfortable at first, or even not at first. There are times when I think all of us go through that, where you stop and you question for a second, because every day we use the logical side, and we have to. That's how we have to function. To be members of society, or to drive down the street and not kill ourselves and everybody around us. But it's knowing and working with the other piece that lets that logical ego mind go for however long to get us to the calmer, not trying to keep us in chaos place.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, 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 absolutely. And a great tool to get into your truth, because this is not about you subscribing to anybody else's truth. This is not about a belief, a set belief. This is not about a set religion. This is not about, well, this is the only way.
Right.
This is about you connecting into your connection with your truth that makes you feel peaceful, yes, and right and joyous with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And and a great way to access it is to go into nature and to spend time in nature, because nature has the highest light frequency. It's the purest light frequency that you have quick and easy access to. And so many people have prescribed to nature being their religion. If you've noticed that kind of term being thrown around, because once they're in nature and once they're just letting go, and either it's hiking or it's surfing or it's jogging or bike riding, whatever it is, it all of a sudden penetrates you to the point where you are able to get out of your head and you are able to declutter and unwind all of the buildup, and all of a sudden, if you're out in nature long enough, you're able to go, and feel relieved, and actually able to tap into that, this is how I want to feel.
Yes. Absolutely. But for the people that are not nature people, and I know many of them, that the thought of walking in the woods only brings out thoughts of spiders and snakes and bears and lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! So at that point, that's when you have to listen to yourself and say, okay, you know what? This is wonderful and spectacular, but it doesn't resonate with me. And that's part of listening to your intuition. Maybe for you, it's taking a hot bubble bath. Or, if you're a city bug and you don't have access to woods around you, having a beautiful plant in front of you. Or a beautiful piece of jewelry or a piece of art. Whatever it is that you connect with is what's perfect for you, and it doesn't have to be the same for any two or three of us. So I don't want you to think that, oh my gosh, there's no trees around me. It doesn't matter, and if you don't like them, that's perfectly fine. A girlfriend and I were talking about this just last night, that one of my places to find that is to sit on the beach and watch ocean waves. And she's just like, that is the most boring thing in the world. And for her, it produces anxiety because she can't, it just goes opposite. So it's a very personal thing. And, we're just kind of given a lot of suggestions of where you can try to listen to where you can find it for yourself.
And I'm so glad you're saying that, because that's exactly what it's about. It's you allowing your own individuality, right? Because we're all snowflakes. There are no two snowflakes that are exactly the same. And so we are all just like snowflakes. There is no other human that is exactly like you, with your imprinting, with your programming, with your emotional makeup, with your purpose, with your everything. So to find your ways and to allow what feels right and good for you in the moment.
Yes.
It could even be going to a movie. Or it could be finding uplifting music and singing out loud to it and dancing. It could be painting. It could be, like Sue said, taking a bubble bath. It may be a different thing on a different day.
Yes.
But to stay flexible and to stay open and to stay looking to connect with what is best for you today, that's your way. Get you deeper and deeper and deeper into your place of essence, of authentic empowerment, of strength, of freedom from the fluctuation that happens on the outside constantly.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, it's all about just, bringing it in and finding, whatever you want to label that feeling. For me, it was easier at first to say, this is my happy place. And, it's something we've heard, when you hear it joked around about a lot, but that's what you're finding is your happy place, your center, your ground, your balance, however you need to term it. And, if it doesn't make sense to you to term it, then don't, but that's what you're looking for. And you know what? There's the other part is, if you can't find it for a few times, don't assume that it doesn't exist for you. And that, that you just need to stay where you are, because you don't. You will eventually get there. And the more you access it, it's sort of like, muscle memory. That the more you access it, the greater it becomes, the easier it becomes. So, don't be discouraged if you can't get there. And, if you can, it's wonderful, and just know that there's more coming in the future for you. It's not a stagnant thing. Oh, my spirit, I see you've got something to add, yay.
I love everything you just said. It's so, 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 so true. It's so true. And there are going to be days where it's harder to access it. And that's just normal. And that's when you want to be okay and relax into having a harder time with accessing it.
Yes. And I think we said this last week also, is that if you're going through something and you can't access it, then it's okay to be in that sadness or that anger for, a little bit longer. Maybe there's something in there that, you haven't realized yet, or it's trying to show itself to you and you just haven't got it. So maybe the extra 5 minutes or 10 minutes or, hour you need before trying again. And, trying to see what the truth is that the universe is trying to show you. It's kind of more about feeling into it, versus trying to use the logical mind to say, but I must access this now, I cannot do this. It's really trusting and learning how to trust yourself of what's perfect in that moment for you yourself.
Yes, yes, yes. I didn't hear the last part of what you were just saying.
Oh, okay. The wind is starting to pick up here, so I don't know if that's going to start playing havoc with the microphone. I was saying that it's really about finding what is perfect for you in that moment, and being able to discern when to try again or when not to try or when to marinate in whichever feeling it is that's coming up before the awarenesses, and being able to move out of it come up.
Yes, yes, yes. And here I just want to tag on again. When you have emotion showing itself, this is not the time for you to try to get out of it and find your happy place. Okay? This is very important, because remember that by you owning the discomfort of the emotion and relaxing with it and not blaming anything on the outside, but really claiming it as this is your imprinting,
Yes.
ready to be healed and released, right? So you can find that place of your happy place more often and more easily and, more substantially, right? Because that's the goal. Because if you really think of yourself, a self-realized being, a healed being, a whole being, you are not going to be dragged around by what happens on the outside anymore. When you have healed your imprinting, yes, you will feel, and yes, you see everything and are clear on what's really going on, but nothing is ever going to take the better of you.
Correct.
Once you're really, in that place of healed wholeness,
Yes.
and so don't forget, the goal is not to get into your happy place. The goal is to clear the imprinting when it shows itself, because that's when you get to clear it.
Absolutely. See, and that's one even I like to kind of forget about sometimes.
Well, it's repetition, 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 repetition. It's the mother of success.
Truly. Gosh. Well, my gosh, Britta, we're down to, we have 5 minutes left.
Yes, yes, yes.
Really good to see that.
I just wanted to share with everybody that, next week on Tuesday, I'm going to have my tooth extracted. And so depending on the level of swelling and depending on the level of pain, I may or may not be here next Wednesday. Right, Sue? So we're gonna kind of like play it by ear, right?
Absolutely. And, we probably will not know until, Wednesday morning how that's going to play out. So, be on the lookout for the emails that go out. Again, if you haven't signed up on our newsletter page, down at the bottom of the website, there is a sign-up box. Scoot your name and email address in there. We promise we don't spam. We don't send a lot of unnecessary anything out. We never sell your email names or addresses, so there's no concerns or worries with that. But it's just a great way of knowing when something, comes up that, we're not able to be here. And we don't know until, a couple of hours beforehand, because, this is a great example that, Britta may be in a position next week where she really just has to take care of herself before she can give to others. And that's perfectly fine, and everybody understands that, but we just can't give you a ton of notice for it. So great reason why to sign up for the newsletters if you haven't. Again, you'll also find the link on the website to submit questions to us, and we absolutely love those because it gives us a chance to know where you guys want to hear and, where you want us to focus a little bit more. So we always love getting those. And again, those you can find over on the website. And what am I forgetting, Britta? Because because I'm sure it's something right now.
No, it all sounds really good. It all sounds really, really, really good. You know, Sue created this amazing website that, you know, you know, Sue is the creative. She's very, very good with all these technical things, and so it looks beautiful. I really love it. I really love it. And so, you know, please, you know, participate. Use this. Use us. Go to that website and click on question and submit your questions. And you know, Sue was actually mentioning just before we started that we're going to give it a proper website name, not the / forward blah 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 forever long, but we're going to make it a solid personal, right?
Absolutely. We just need a little time to get there and to get things going. And, you know, it was just so exciting to start this. And, you know, we had people asking us when. And, you know, I was like, we just really wanted to get out here and do this. So some of the technical and the pretty things and all the rest of, you know, the fun stuff, it's going to all fall into place. It just, you know, takes a little bit of time. And this is one of those times, but, you know, we'll get there.
Of course, of course. And it's like anything. It's growth and progress. It's ever expansive. And so here I do want to address one other question quickly, and I'm going to make it sweet and short, but we can, of course, connect into it again next time. So boundaries. Boundaries. So if you think of yourself as energy, which science is confirming and proving you are. So now you don't only have your physical manifestation be energy, but you're also having a space surrounding you, also referred to as the aura. So you actually have this energetic space around you that is your space. And it's a wonderful way to start thinking about boundaries in connection to energy and to being aware and respectful of your own space, and also being aware and respectful of other people's space. So this is a really nice thought intro into how to relate to boundaries. When somebody comes too close into your space and it doesn't feel good, then you know, okay, you know, I gotta find a way to communicate this boundary with this person more clearly.
Yes.
Right? So just to, as a little lead in, more for next time.
It's such a huge topic. And we all deal with it every single day in one form or another. Either, you know, it's just we all deal with it. So, yeah, that is a great lead into where we're going and giving, you know, you guys an opportunity to write in more questions or comments or, you know, what you would like to hear on that matter.
Yes, yes. Or even examples. You can even give examples from your own life, you know, of what you are experiencing.
Oh, brilliant idea, yes. Absolutely. So it looks like that's where we're going to go next week, guys. So, you know, if there's anything else, you know, again, write in. This is really as much about you guys as it is about us. So we're all in this together, and, you know, that's the way we're going to take it. So we are actually out of time here today. I want to just say thank you real quick for joining us. And again, write in. We love it. So I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll let Britta too.
Goodbye, everybody. And this is such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful meeting place for all of us. And I'm so happy to be here with all of us, all of you. And yeah, keep breathing. Keep breathing deeply and slowly.
Absolutely. All right. Take care.